It's so common to see players chunk and thin shots around the green, but what if I told you it is really simple to hit clean chip shots day in and day out, really close to the hole, if you know the right technique. I'm gonna go over some of the biggest mistakes that you can make, and if you're making these, man, you're making chipping hard. Let's go and get started. All right, so mistake number one, putting the ball too far back in your stance. And usually this comes also with putting your feet too far apart. So you do wanna hit down on this golf ball. I do wanna be hitting down, hitting the ball first and then the ground in front. I may clip a little bit of the grass before the ball is completely fine. And I also want to have forward shaft lean. So I want my hands leading in front of the club head when I hit this shot. Now, to do that, it's really easy to think, well, I can just put the ball back in my stance. That's going to basically make it where I have to hit down because there's really no way to scoop up when I'm back here on the back of my stance. And my hands are definitely going to be in front when they're like this. But if my feet are this far apart, and my weight is also on my left side, like we've heard, basically everybody says, this ball is way far back of where my low point is. So if my weight's on my left side, I'm gonna be kind of grounding out, or the low point of my swing arc would be kind of under the inside of my left shoulder here. So that would be somewhere around here. When I put this ball this far back in my stance, really the only way to reach to it is to start to chop down too far, very much descending into the golf ball. It's very easy to do that and just cold stub it. We do a couple of those, and what ends up happening is our brain says, I sure as heck don't want to do that anymore. That's super embarrassing. Let me try to not hit the ground now, and I start to get a little bit of this chicken wing type action, or I try to pull the club up from slamming into the ground, and I end up getting one of these, where you just kind of top it across or skull it across the green, your arms fold up. Basically the most embarrassing things that can happen, because now you're deathly afraid of just slamming the club in the ground or sculling it across the green. Yeah, that's no fun, not a good way to play golf. If we get the right ball position, things get a lot easier. So I like to put the feet much closer together. It allows me to rotate more easily through the shot, which I'll get to here in a second, but it also allows me to play this ball kind of on my left heel here. So depending on where the camera's lined up, this may not be perfectly lined up, but I want the ball to be on the left heel. That way when my weight is on my left side, now my ball is there too. So the inside of my left shoulder is kind of directly, just barely in front of the golf ball. So my low spot is really good in relationship to where the golf ball is. So now I can have those hands forward. I can hit just a basic bump and run chip here, and that's going to be pretty solid results time and time out. Even if I get a little too down in it, I hit a little too much ground, it's going to be fine because my low point is going to be just in front of that golf ball. With that ball back in my stance, not going to be good. I'm going to feel really jerky over top of this ball. Number two would be decelerating. One of the worst things that you can do is making too big of a backswing. A lot of times I'll see players make a big backswing and all of a sudden they're slowing down. Man, that makes me nervous just even thinking about it. That's going to be very inconsistent. So I'd like to see roughly the same length backswing as you have follow through. That makes it really easy to make sure I'm accelerating through the shot and I'm going to make that good, clean contact. And it's not really going to feel like I have to do that much work to make it happen. So there, I even chunked that one just a hair, but because my low point was good, because I accelerated through it, it rolled out and it ended up just as good as if I'd hit it perfectly clean. All right, so the next one is locking up your legs. This is a really, really tough one. The reason this one is so prevalent is because it makes sense at surface level. If I think about, I'm going to keep my legs dead still, I'm not going to move my legs, and I'm just going to go upper body, well, that eliminates one of your degrees of freedom. If I eliminate the legs, I should be more consistent. There's less things that can go wrong. Unfortunately, when you do this, when you lock up those legs, now I have to do everything with my upper body and my arms. So I tend to get way too handsy. My wrist is going to tend to break down like this. Might get a little bit of a chicken wing there. That's all coming from not rotating the lower body and the knees. So if I do this properly, I want to go ahead and have my knees pivot as I'm coming back and through. One thing that really helps with this is getting your feet a little bit more open toward the target. I don't like to have my feet square like this because I feel like I'm having to use my hands to go across my body. When you look at really good chippers and pitchers of the golf ball, they're almost all going to set up with their feet slightly open to where the target is lined up. So I like to have this front foot open and the back foot kind of facing forward the target too, and that's going to help me to get my knees rotating. From there, I'm not worried about keeping my knees still at all. I'm going to go ahead let my knees rotate back and through, and that's gonna give me a good feeling of rhythm, and it's gonna give me a good, fluidness through the golf ball to hit it really clean. If I point my feet forward, if I lock up my lower body, I'm all hands and arms, it's gonna be a disaster. You're just gonna hit so many thin ones and chunks, it's gonna be really miserable doing it that way. You may be able to do that if you're using a super low lofted club and you're not very far from the hole. Here I'm a little bit farther. If I was only 10 or 15 feet from the hole and I was using a 7-iron, maybe I could use more of a bump and run type putting stroke and just have my arms go back and through. The problem with that is once I get any farther than that, this simple putting stroke is not going to be fast enough. I couldn't use a putting stroke to get the ball from here to that hole. So I have to start breaking everything down. That's when it goes out of whack. So it's not that you can't use a putting stroke to chip. It's just you can only do that when it's really close. Once it gets a little farther, it just makes it impossible to make that happen. Lastly here, I want to have my weight on my front foot, but again, I want to make sure that it's not my feet way far apart like this. I'm going to have my feet close together so my feet are fairly balanced. They don't feel like it's way out of whack. Like I don't feel like I'm like this when I'm over it and I'm way to the left. I'm just favoring my left side a little bit. My heels are only going to be not even a golf club head width apart. And then from there, with my weight staying a little bit left, I feel like I can just pivot around that left leg and my knees and my body are going to rotate on through. You see, if I do that, I can get really consistent results. I just need to learn to aim a little bit more to the left. But those are all hit pretty clean. Follow those tips and you'll hit clean shots too. Now, how do you dial in your distances? We still have a problem here. How do I know if I'm going to hit it 40 feet, 50 feet, 60 feet? What do I really do to get that honed in? Well, I'm going to play a preview from one of my best videos where I have some tricks, some real secrets that I've learned over the years that are going to allow you to consistently hit shots the exact same distance. You'll notice here that I hit all those within just a few feet of each other distance-wise. I have a system that I follow and I can't wait to share it with you. So go ahead and click the card that pops up on your screen, or if you don't see the cards, that's no problem. Go ahead and click the link down below in the description, and I'm going to share that secret with you right now. Let's go ahead and get started. Pitch shot could be anywhere from right by the green all the way back to probably 50 or 60 yards or so. And that's what you're going to want to do when you want to get a little bit more spin and get the ball a little bit more up in the air. We're going to go ahead and let the wrist set a little bit more, have a little bit more club action, get the ball to go a little higher in the air with a little bit more spin. So let me go ahead and describe what is a good pitch shot so that you know what you're really going for. I think we got to start from there, start from contact. So as I make contact, I want to be coming in very shallow to the ground. So I don't want to be taking much of a divot. I don't want to be hitting down into the ground. As the club releases and we have a flat spot where the club travels very level with the ground for 5 or 6 inches on these pitch shots. So when that happens, let me go ahead and exaggerate. As my hand is coming down, my hands are close to the ground. As this club gets closer and closer to the ground, my hands move up. As the club moves down, now you're seeing them having this flat spot.